This is 4.3 Data Collection Methods by Edward Sayers. To start off this video, we're going to start looking at some of the different types of research designs. So the research design is the structure or plan of a piece of research. What is the outcome going to be? What type of research is going to be conducted? This is important to have this structure to help gain more reliable results. Research methods is small mechanisms, so how the data is all going to be collected is dependent on what the researcher wants to find out and how they are going to conduct the research. When deciding which research design is going to be used, the researcher must consider several things, such as what their topic of research is, what the intention of the research is, so what they want to get out of it and the structure, and after this they can think of what design is most suitable for their study. So the first one we're going to look at is experimental research. An experimental research design has variables that are controlled and the independent variable is manipulated. Participants are randomly selected, for example, gymnastics routine with an audience or without an audience. The audience is the variable being manipulated. Tests whether the gymnasts perform better with or without the audience, being present. Also within research there are different types of experimental groups. So staying with the same scenario, if the group was an independent group, different groups would be used for each of the conditions. Another type of group is a repeated measures type group. So the same groups would be used in each condition, and this could counterbalance. You would need to split participants into A and B. Group A would start in the condition 1 and Group B would start in the condition 2. And then they would switch round. And then the last one is the matched pairs, where different groups are used in each condition, but they will have similar characteristics. For example, they could be the same gender, age, or play the same sport, for example. Advantages of this is that it is easily repeatable, and there are high levels of control as the researcher can isolate certain variables, meaning that they can find out exactly what they need to find out. Disadvantages of this is the inability to control variables, but if it happens, it could also cause an artificial situation, which is also a disadvantage, and also there's space for all types of error, including human and random errors. The next research design is a correlational research design. This looks at the relationship between at least two variables which aren't manipulated, like the relationship between age and flexibility of gymnasts. Next is a cross-sectional research design. This looks at a population at a certain point of time and identifies the relationships within this population. For example, comparing the flexibility of gymnasts using various ages and various abilities, including whether they want to be professional or just compete for fun as a recreational activity. Advantages are that it is quick and cheap, and the data has to only be collected once, so repeats aren't required. It's good to collect this data as it gathers participants from various age groups, genders, abilities, or cultures. Disadvantages are that the cause and effect can be suggested from the collected data, but this doesn't give evidence that it proves anything. A comparative research design has two or more subjects with similar characteristics, and they are compared to one another. This can be either a qualitative or a quantitative study. A longitudinal research design includes a lengthy observation with a study that spreads over a large period of time, which could even be years, which studies a change within a group or an individual over a certain period of time. A huge disadvantage of this is that the fact that it is massively time consuming, and if any of the participants drop out whilst the research is going on, then you would either have to cancel the entire research project or you would have to find new participants and basically start all over again. Lastly, a case study style of research includes a detailed investigation into a case about some individual or maybe a team or a class. Advantages of this is that plenty of detail is collected as the focus is solely on one individual or a group. A disadvantage of this is that it is time consuming, especially if you're doing it with more than one person, and there's low reliability as it only gains information from one individual rather than a group or of different people, so it can't be applied to a wider population. Now we can move on to the different types of data. So the first one we're going to look at is primary data, which is research that you've actually done yourself. You have completed an experiment and you have collected the data, so the primary data is the set of results that you have. Primary data comes with its advantages and disadvantages. An advantage of it is that it is current, so you might have used other data or replicated other researchers' experiments. So when you have done the experiment yourself, you therefore have the newest set of data for that particular test. Another advantage is that it's reliable, because it is you yourself who has completed the testing for this experiment. However, some disadvantages of primary data are that it is expensive and time consuming to acquire lab and participants to take part in your experiment. Another is that it could be subjected to researcher bias. If you want an answer to be true, you can adapt the results to get the answer in which you want, which completely ruins the reliability of and validity of your experiment. And secondary data is the second type of data. So this is data that has previously been done by other researchers, and this can be very beneficial to researchers because it can allow them to compare the set of results that they got from their experiment and compare it to other scientists' set of results to see if they are similar, therefore providing the reliability of, improving the reliability of the testing method. However, just like with primary data, secondary data comes with its advantages and disadvantages. An example of an advantage can be that because it's not you who is doing the research, it is much less time consuming and expensive because all you're doing is using other data as a comparison. However, a massive disadvantage to using someone else's data is that you are heavily relying on them to have a good set of results for you to compare yours to. So you need the validity of the secondary data to be good to make the comparison worthwhile, and this allows you to further prove or disprove your starting hypothesis. Now we can move on to the different levels within research. So the first level is discrete research. This is one of the simplest types of research because it only has two possible answers. An example of discrete research is if you ask people, did you have breakfast this morning? They can either answer yes or no. Discrete allows you to find out how many people did eat breakfast and how many didn't, so it allows you to find out the frequency. However, what it doesn't tell you is it doesn't tell you if the people who ate breakfast had a sufficient amount or when they ate their breakfast. So in this respect, it can be very lacking in the information that it tells you. The next level of classification is ordinal research. This again is a simple form of research, but it does allow you to extract more information from the experiment than discrete research. Ordinal research is when categories are put into an order. For example, this could be people being put into order of basic characteristics like height. An advantage of this would be that you could find out who is the tallest and who is the shortest. However, you wouldn't be able to find out from just ordering them the difference between first and second ranked. For example, you would only have the information that one is taller than two, but there would be no way of saying how much taller they are. So in this way, it is lacking in information. The third level is nominal research. This is where there are named groups and people are moved into whichever group they are. For example of this could be if GB gymnasts are told to move into groups based on which event they feel most confident in. There could be a group for mat, the rings, vault or high bars for example, and they'd have to move to which they are most confident in. This is nominal data because you are using named groups. This form of data collection allows researchers to gain a frequency because they would know how many people are most confident with which event. The final level of research is called interval research. This is recorded as numerical data with a meaningful order. For example, this could be an order of temperature as the example before, as it has an absolute 0. Or it could also be heart rate or a gymnast sprint speed during a training session. Now we can move on to the next part, which is about collection methods. So the first type we're going to look at is qualitative data. So this is based on data that can't be measured, so it is descriptive and describes social happenings. It includes an empathetic understanding by the researcher due to thoughts and feelings that provide depth in the data. It is subjected to opinions. It can be interpreted by researchers, so it can be their take on what the person who is being researched says. It can sometimes be unreliable, and sometimes you get too much data, so some studies would be better off with condensed data.